This is I hope the internet holds out for this one. This will be a long one today, and so you want to take might want to take notes on this one. But I was up this morning early, went for a walk about 5:30, 6. Just the idea of doing this video came into my head. Now, one of the most insidious forms of dark sorcery is putting a notion into someone's head that you're somehow saving them from themselves, saving them from another person, saving them from society, saving them from a political system, saving them from anything. And it's based solely upon the desire to control the perception about them and others, not for genuine caring and trying to save somebody. Not for that reason. This is not done for this reason. We live in an age, and all my life, ever since the campaign for nuclear disarmament, the CND people, which logo is the rune of death, I've been told that the end is nigh. It's the Abrahamic thing continued over to secular life. If you don't do what we say or say what we do, you will be annihilated. And of course the current thing of that is carbon. If you don't reduce your carbon footprint, your life energy, your life molecules, you will not be saved by us. And that's the latest one. We see it with that Greta Thunberg. This idea of this salvation sorcery is so dark and so insidious because it often creates a problem that is not there in order to justify atrocities. Now, when this video is over, I will upload a thumbnail for it, and that thumbnail, look at the two pictures of it. You can't have a demonstration without demons. Demonstration. Now, the school walkouts of Greta Thunberg, the 1% brat who's nearly eligible for voting and military service, pretending to be a 9-year-old. That's a demonstration. She has, I mean, the more I look at her, especially at first I thought that performance at the UN was bad acting. I'm starting to think now that child may be possessed. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if she was. Remember, a lot of these people they're possessed. And it causes mass possession, so demonstrating when they walked out of school. In revolutionary France, upon the creation of the First Republic, there was an individual called Maximilien Robespierre, and he was basically assigned with the same kind of mentality as Pol Pot with the Khmer Rouge in Kampuchea. Year zero, a reset. Whenever you see any kind of group says we need a reset or a restart, or we start from scratch, or anything that could be run a fucking mile, because that's genocidal. It wants to reset everything. Now, Maximilien Robespierre was in charge of a group called the Committee for Public Safety in revolutionary France. The Committee for Public Safety, its agenda was to pretend to the people that they were in great danger of the royalists coming back and killing them. So in order to do this, they said we have to kill as many royalists as possible, or anyone in the establishment, or anyone who gets in our way. And that's when the guillotining began. Now, people have to understand that so many people were guillotined in France or died in prison awaiting trial during Robespierre's reign of terror, that no one knows the true number. No one knows the true number. And there's a notion that it was all aristocrats who were all killed. I'd say some of the aristocrats were killed, and then ones that had no power were sacrificed, like Marie Antoinette. That woman was like an Anne Boleyn character. She was just purely murdered for bloodlust. Let's kill it. Let's kill the rich bitch. The woman did nothing to nobody. She just was unfortunately a courtesan of the King Louis, but she was slaughtered for no reason. She was a public sacrifice. Now, Robespierre's reign of terror. You know, nowadays we would say things like, you know, they wouldn't have a reign of terror. They wouldn't call it a reign of terror. They would call it, you know, the public correction plan or something like that, or the safety plan for or something like that. Maximilien Robespierre actually wrote philosophical treatises on the idea of terror being very important for the power base in the Revolutionary Committee. Now, the reason, if you look at again at the logo at the front, you'll see two things. You will see the all-seeing eye of Freemasonry, and that's who was behind the French Revolution, because they infiltrated the Grand Orient Lodge of Paris under the Bavarian Illuminati was running the French Revolution on behalf of the banks. And below that you have the fascia, the bundle of sticks, which shows the law of Rome, the power of the might of the state, the fascia, where fascism comes from. So they killed anybody. But the greatest and the biggest horror is many died in prison awaiting trial. So you hear about the storming of the Bastille to release the prisoners. Well, they committed much worse atrocities. And what they did was they played on the mentally ill. They gave the mentally ill these caps, and all the low lives and low level like scum, you know, the white trash, the scangers, the dirtbags, and they gave them these hats. And these hats, and you'll see that hat is on the actual logo for the Committee of Public Safety. That was that was like their magical robe. And you'd have like local dirtbags running through the streets holding heads in their hands and smirking. This kind of thing. Robespierre killed so many people during his philosophical reign of terror that he was satirized in British and other magazines. There's one famous cartoon where they show him executing the executor because he killed everybody else, and the only person left was the guy operating the guillotine. So Robespierre put him in the guillotine and chopped his head off. That is not farcical. That is literally tens of thousands of Catholics were murdered. Now, what we're seeing today with the climate thing is very much the descendant of the Committee for Public Safety, and I'll explain why. They abolished any kind of belief in religion, although Robespierre himself said that having some kind of God is necessary for controlling the poor. So they took away God, the God of the Abrahamic world, and didn't replace it with a pagans or even atheism. They replaced it with a thing called a god or goddess of reason. And they installed the goddess of reason into the Notre Dame Cathedral. And see, everything else synchronistic, everything comes back, folks. Psychic weather, archetypal resonance. This is how, once you start observing synchronicities and these things in synchro-mysticism, you see the world, you see the grand chessboard as it really is. So the Committee on Public Safety and the First Republic revolutionary people, and it's got this idea that reason, science and reason was a god to be worshipped, well, like actual god. That's where you get the likes of Richard Dawkins and Brian Cox today. Like they've raised science to scientism, which is a religion, and it's not science at all. Now, some coffee. Eventually, Robespierre was a victim of his own success, and he'd killed so many people. And it did things like, it went from just, you know, picking on the bourgeois and the aristos to killing anyone. And then there was horrible atrocities where early feminists were killed, executed women. Any political party that wanted a parliamentary process in the government, they were all rounded up and guillotined. It was absolute mad bloodlust. And it was occultic. It was occultic because it went back to the Grand Orient Lodge in Paris, Freemasons. It was a Freemasonic bloodbath. Now, before people go Freemasons, titanic pedophile and all this stuff, let me explain to you about Freemasonry. The vast majority of Freemasons are harmless nebbishes or nerds. They're not dangerous, they're not sinister, they're little social climbing weasels, most of them. Some of them are people who have been raised by Freemasons, and they may have lost their parents, and they're devoted to Freemasonry because the Freemasonry put them through college and helped them get a life, right? And got them off drugs. And Freemasonry does an awful lot of good as well too. People have to remember this. It's not all bad. Now, the Committee on Public Safety was basically Freemasons being given free rein to run a country, and all they committed mass sacrifices. Now, we know that the Freemasons worship a supreme creator, but we don't know who that creator is. That's the creator mentioned in the American Constitution. It doesn't say God, it says creator. It's the Freemasonic creator. Now, at the top of Freemasonry is a need-to-know group who are extremely dangerous and extremely vicious, and they worship a demon or something. I have not ever been able to get to it. I have been asked to join at least three since I became known, 3 Freemasonic groups in the east coast of Ireland. They've basically asked me to join. They think that I would be a great asset to them with all my esoteric knowledge, but they're also after my books as well. And you know, I think 2 of those offers were made in good faith. One was a bit iffy. I turned them all down because I don't join clubs and I don't join organizations. And you've always known that about me. I don't join movements. I'm a, you know, I always say, be a consciousness insurgent, a lone gunman. And the Freemasons at the certain top are heavily involved in espionage, formation of public policies, and financial control, financial institutions. Now, have you ever worked in a government building or in a big bank or in public office or somewhere like that where there was somebody who worked there and you didn't know what their job was, and yet they seemed to be around senior management, and you're saying to yourself, who's this cunt? How is he here? What's his job? But that's the Freemason. That's the Freemason in there, and the Freemason is there to assist, and these are the sinister ones now, assist and modify and coordinate all the policies together between corporations, banks, and government. You think of someone like that. Remember that show, the Yes Minister, Sir Humphrey? He'd be a classic example of that. Also, that's why they have an episode of him from the 70s talking about what would happen if Brexit was voted in. That's what we're getting. That's pure whistleblowing. Just that everyone thought it was farcical back then, but they were mocking us. And Smithers from The Simpsons is another example. He'd probably be a Freemason as well, the high-ranking Freemason. These are the ones who, when the McCann thing went down in Praia de Luz in Portugal, suddenly organised the media to have journalists writing things like about the radiant beauty of Kate McCann, how they're inspirational parents. That was all Masonic. When the Portuguese police first came into Jerry McCann, they thought he was a Muslim because he was doing this. They thought he was a Muslim in prayer, right? That's called the sign of distress. Is there no mercy for the mother's son? That's what they say. Is there no mercy for the mother's son? And that's what he assumed that the Portuguese police were all Masons, like the British police are all Masons, and that's what that was all about. And that's when we get insights into the real hardcore Masonic stuff. Now, the whole thing with Greta Thunberg and the climate change thing has Committee of Public Safety written all over it. We have this idea of an impending emergency that needs to be dealt with through implementation of public safety. What is public safety? Public safety is you killing yourself to reduce the population. Now, people saying things like, oh, you know, I remember back in the day the truthers were big into the whole thing of the FEMA camps and all that nonsense, and FEMA trains, which were car carriers, and FEMA coffins, all bollocks. All bullshit, Christian truther nonsense. And then pointing to the Georgia Guidestones, and it says reduce population to a sustainable 100 million. The thing is that they don't use guillotines and gulags and purges and killing fiends anymore. They make you kill yourself. They make you kill yourself. So, do you remember when Trump got into power? The night before his inauguration, there was some lunatic tried to set fire to himself, going, not my president. my presence. And there has been, and there's someone actually burned himself on the White House lawn, burned himself alive last year. There has been numerous suicides in the United States of people who think that the world has ended because Trump is president, and this will increase with 2020 thing. A lot of those people involved in those witch hexing things in Brooklyn and stuff, they're all of them are dead now. A lot of them have committed suicide. Why do you need to round people up and guillotine them when the Committee for Public Safety in the modern times gets them to kill themselves? I'm sure there's been lots of teen suicides who've killed themselves because they're following Greta Thunberg. This is why Greta Thunberg is evil. There has already been a health child psychologist and teen psychologist saying there's a tsunami of teenagers who think they're all going to die soon because of Greta Thunberg. And she has been held up to them as the new goddess of reason, because she wears little signs saying the science is settled, I'm for science. And she's the living embodiment. And even the lunatics of the Lutheran Church, who don't even believe in the Virgin Mary, in Sweden called her the new Virgin Mary. We are in some time to be living in. I mean, this is the thing. Don't be afraid of any of this. Observe it with absolute awe and fascination, and be thankful that you can see it for what it is and it's not affecting you. Now, this is you're going to have, like, you know, you're going to have parents walking in, and teenage boys will be using a razor blade to cut their penises off because they don't want to have children, because Greta says we're killing the planet. You'll have young girls pulling their flesh off with hooks. Big time self-harming stuff, all to do with this. Big time self-harm. You'll have fathers going, we must die for Greta, and then poisoning his family or going around stabbing them to death. And the kids can't fight back because they've been raised on soy vegan diets by the dad. And the parents don't have the intelligence because their brains have turned to slop from the soy diet. They have no fat in their brain, so they can't process the neuroelectrical activity in their brain correctly. Now, when you look at it for what it really is, the Committee for Public Safety, the same Freemasons in charge, the same ideas of that there's a God of reason, there's an Abrahamic scientist in the sky. That's really what you could say it is. Jehovah the technician, not Jehovah the God, Jehovah the technician, and the engineer. You are in a situation where you are observing something that's been going on since the French Revolution and the Committee of Public Safety. All the way through all the environmental movements, right there, David Suzuki's daughter in 1992 giving the exact same speech of Greta Thunberg to the United Nations. It never ends. It's only going to end because of people like us spreading this kind of information amongst each other. And then again, you know me, I say to you, I'm telling you this, right? Don't run down into your job, or don't run down the street repeating like the 9/11 truthers that this is what happened, because it will socially isolate you. And you know something? Considering how bad fucking things are now, perhaps that social isolation wouldn't be a bad idea for many of us. A lot of people on my videos say that they don't really like society anymore, and they stay indoors, and they go for like long hikes in the country, and they do art and they do magic, and they do things like that. Good, that's the way to be. Just enjoy your life, enjoy your hobbies, enjoy your loved ones, enjoy the things that make life beautiful. You don't have to worry about it. But if you're aware of it, you're not going to fall into the trap. You will never be a victim of the modern climate Committee of Public Safety, because you know this bullshit. And another thing to do with the truthers and the whole, that whole Georgia Guidestones, 100 million, they all assumed it was them. No. I think the elites are quite happy to keep people like us alive, because we've seen through the bullshit. What they want to get rid of is the ones, just like the Bolsheviks, the ones who are the most ardent lovers of the biggest idiots that are easy ones to fall for it. The ones who fall for it, because they have all these ones who go, oh, we must follow Greta. They think the establishment loves them. The establishment is laughing at them. What a bunch of mugs! What a bunch of suckers! Where the rest of us are like, They don't care because we're not a danger to them, because we know. I did a show on the Wizard Factory tonight, and I said there's actually committees sitting down there with like Soros, and they're saying, what are we going to do with all these pagans? And they'll send committees out to say, find out what we pagans want, and then what they discover is we want nothing. We just want to be left alone. We want nothing. We have no mandates. We have no desires. We have no list of demands. Our only request is to leave us alone. So we're no problem. We're no problem. And they'd gladly probably want us alive with the 100 million. Now, the demon part of demonstration, right? I always, demons don't actually exist as beings, just like pagan gods don't exist as beings. They are forces of energy which are encapsulated or anamorphized or zoomorphized in certain ways. Now, who is the demon of ill weather? Pazuzu. So the Pazuzu demon is the one that they're demonstrating when they're walking out of school. They're supporting that demon. Pazuzu is the demon that carries pestilence and disease on the wind. It damages the environment. It's very much an environmental demon, an environmental entity. And its power is extremely strong among those possessed by climate change ideology. The belief that carbon is a pollution. The belief that carbon is a deadly poison, even though carbon is pumped into greenhouses deliberately to increase plant yield and fruit production. This is, and they will, this is what they fear. They're afraid of carbon, the molecule of life. It actually frightens them. If Greta Thunberg claims she can see carbon in the air, and all these atheist scientists, reductionists don't take her to task on it, they all like, oh, Greta, she's leading us to freedom, goddess of reason. Pazuzu, the ill wind that blows, is the demonic force that gets them to demonstrate. And this is what will get them to self-annihilate. Now, this is an extinction gnosis when you understand this. When you understand that there is a desire among a certain occultic class connected to the top ranks of Freemasonry, who want population reductions because they want the wealth, the super rich will not have enough money because it would be too many middle class taking it off them, and also they're afraid of too many people, and also they don't like most of the human race. And I got news for you, I don't like most of the human race either. Most of the people you meet, go in your local shopping mall, and do you really think do you really want to be one of them, or do you want to save them? That's another thing. I have no desire to march down the streets saving people. Usually the ones who have, these local community activists, or these like SJW types, or to join the likes of Antifa or the Social Workers Party, that's all masked under the desire to control them. But also they know that there's no one going, they know they're disposable. Just like useful idiots. That's why when the Bolsheviks came to power in Russia, and that's Freemasons again, the first thing they did was after the Bolsheviks had all been used for their purges and their own reigns of terror, they killed them because they were just maggots in their eyes as well. It's just maggots. And that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing an extinction gnosis, of population reduction. But the thing is, I'm not this. Like, I'm completely different than your Alex Jones or these types saying they're going, the elites are going to take us down. I'm telling you, you will survive if you don't fall into their. You're okay. Don't worry about it. Enjoy your life. You're not going to be. You are not the one they're interested in. The one they're interested in is the average meat golem who can't think for themselves, who follows superficial emotional triggers and walks headlong into all this bullshit because the media feeds them a superficial thing that plays on them. She's a little girl. She's got autism. We don't know that yet for sure. she wants to save the world. She's so brave. Oh, look at me sharing her picture. I'm so brave too. Oh, I'm so woke. They're the ones they want wiped out, and because they know that they're idiots. They know they're idiots. And you see, the thing is with this kind of sorcery is that the whole thing, I tell you, just because the devil opens a door doesn't mean he's not going to push it through it. These people willingly walk into that door, where the rest of us go, nah, I'm not going to do it. We're fine. We survive. We're fine. We're okay. And this is not conspiracy theory. This is the Committee on Public Safety existed, and that mentality is still prevalent throughout, and they were founded by, look it all up. And that mentality has stewed within world politics ever since Maximilien Robespierre and the rest of them. And it didn't really change anything as the Bourbons got back into power, and the aristocrats still are very powerful in France. It was a way of getting rid of some aristocrats. They do human sacrifice on each other too. They're not just doing it on us. And this is the age of Pazuzu controlling the demonstrations of the climate change people. It don't really even stand. The science is settled. The science is settled. These are mantras, and the whole thing of like, of course, I got one on the Veruca Salt video I made the other day where he goes, "How dare you attack a little child?" You see, this is all they have. They don't have. They didn't argue to any of the points. They'll just go for, you're attacking the children because they have this desire to rule others. That's what drives them. This is what drives people to get involved in political activism. They want to control others. All of us, to a certain degree, do want to do that, because it's almost like, if I was the king of the world, this is what we would do. But we will never have that opportunity. But things like activism gives them people a false belief that that's there for them if they want it. It's not. It just scoops them all up and robs them of their psychic energy and carves it onto something else. And then I had some other knobs saying, then you supported Trump. I said, I supported Trump, and the name of the video was Vote Trump for Snowflake Geddon, because I knew all these SJWs were going to go bonkers and give us the best entertainment ever. That's the only reason. And also Clinton was far, 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 far worse. We'd be swimming in an ocean of blood if she had been made US president. And but it wasn't because I thought Trump's political policies were meaningful or anything. I didn't give a shit about any of that stuff. I purely wanted it for my own entertainment, and the SJWs stepped up to the fore, and they gave us some of the best, funniest entertainment we ever had to see their meltdowns. And the right wingers give us if a left wing politician could do it to give right wingers in the Bible Belt a meltdown, I would do it, support them as well. I don't give a fuck about the policies. It's purely for my own entertainment is what I'm interested in. And that's how you should be about it. This whole thing of getting involved in the game and being one side or the other, afraid of one side or the other, is all part of this extinction. Notice, because you're ultimately nullifying yourself. You understand? This is what it's self-nullification. The nullification of the self. It's like a smear campaign. If you start a smear campaign or you're involved in a smear campaign, you've already lost. Because if you had any power, you wouldn't have done that in the first place. You've already lost. So if you go on demonstration and you're demonstrating, you've already lost because you have no power. So therefore, you're demonstrating before the demon. And if you do a climate change, the demon is Pazuzu. And you're handing your power over to a demon daemon that's the actual state mechanisms or public mechanism that's controlling this like a mass. Remember that when you see things like a climate change walkout at schools, that is a mass. What you're watching is a kind of a Gnostic mass. That's what you're watching there. You're watching a mass. You're watching a religious ceremony. Very, this you see this. They will deny that there's gods. They'll deny that there's religion. They'll deny there's a spiritual dimension to human beings. But they will always, always, always use it against us. Always. And that's why because they know that they'll never get that out of us. Don't let anyone alter your neurochemicals for their basis and their agendas. I don't give a fuck what you do with this information. Naturally, I would like you to learn from it, think about it, analyze it, adapt and modify it, because I'm not a scientist. I don't believe my opinion is settled. See, if you're new to this channel and my other channel, Thomas Sheridan Arts, the comments are like part 2 of the videos. I have the most intelligent and interesting and the best comments on YouTube, I think. When I switch off this video, the conversation continues below, right? Now, yeah, I would like you to buy a book because I like my books. I think that my books are quite good. And I have bills to pay. Like, I'm working today. I'm going to work a more regular weekend job now. I have like 2 or 3 jobs. I have to make money. I have to pay bills. And selling books and ads on, I think a few ads on YouTube is a very small price to pay for all this information I give you. And that's it. Walk away and then develop what you want from it. But those comments down there is a fertile ground of discussion and discourse, which is part 2 of this video. And I learn an awful lot down there as well, because there's things that help me, you know, I will modify, you know, there's these assholes that come up to you and say, oh, 2 years ago you said something slightly different. Because 2 years ago I was a different fucking person, moron. I'm not a robot. Things have modified, information has appeared, I've changed, life changes, world has changed, things change. But just because you haven't changed and you're stuck in a dogmatic framework doesn't mean the rest of us are like that. The reason why people like us survive in times like this is because we do adapt. And that's like another thing too. So it's like, never ever take anything I say at absolute face value. What I'm giving you there is a painting where the canvas is still wet. And you've got your own paints and you can continue the painting if you want, or add or change things to it. And this is how you will build your own model of personal safety. See, when you ever see, that's the whole thing when it comes down to. The Committee for Public Safety is not about the individual. It's about the public. The public is not you. The public is the state. The Committee for Public Safety is the real, what that should be really called is the Committee for Establishment Safety. Just like socialism wasn't created out of the goodness of the hearts of the rich to make the poor happy, it was so we wouldn't be angry and kill them. That's what socialism was about. That's a sorcery. That's a sleight of hand. That's, remember that movie, The Prestige, The Turn and The Prestige. That's the prestige, the payoff. And the Committee of Public Safety is a committee of the establishment safety. And you have this idea in your head that we are the public. You're not the public. You're not the public. And that goes right back to the time of Plato. Plato, in The Republic, it suggested that the populations of the Athenian islands could be reduced by starting wars amongst them, and that way that would ease resources. That was the beginning of all this. The Republic, it represents the public. The public is not you. And all these people go, public safety, community, and now it's global. Now it's global safety. You are not a global. You are a sovereign, independent human being, subject to natural law. And guess what? They're the same way too. But they're playing with the masses. They're playing games with the masses. They're messing with their heads. They're messing with their fears. They're getting in and twisting their neurochemicals around. They are the ultimate. I'm telling you, until you wake up, you are a meat puppet suspended in a sea of sorcery. When you see the sea of sorcery, you're no longer public. You're then sovereign. And you're subject to natural laws. And then you start making the healthy move towards being a pagan. And then you're basically a free person in many ways. It doesn't matter if you pay taxes or in the system. I mean, these people, these morons, and you are morons. I'm going to go down to the courts with my Black's Law Dictionary and overturn this legal structure of the Law Society. You have to understand, the law is not for you. That doesn't exist for you. You're thinking, you think you can actually change something that exists for, it doesn't exist for you. Just like we will rise up and we will demonstrate as the public and change public policy. But that's not for you. You don't own the state. You don't own the statute books. You don't own the government. You don't own shit. All you own is your own personal sovereignty. That's all you own. Nothing else. And let me tell you something. That is the most terrifying thing in the world for most people. The most terrifying thing in the world for most people is for someone to say to them, you're on your own. They don't want to believe it. That's why they want socialism. That's why they want the proletariat. Not the proletariat. They want communes. This is why they want to be communards. If you look at all these movements, they've been like just one slaughter after the next. Because when you become organized in a political system, you are now a herd of animals for the slaughter for the state. For the Committee for Public Safety, by the Committees of Public Safety. And so right back to where I started at the beginning of this. When Robespierre wrote his dissertations and his philosophical, look it up, things on terror, were papers on terror. He was talking about terror in the same way he would talk about the healthcare system or the sewage systems or anything, the army. It was the integral mechanism of the state. Then they kill Robespierre, right? They kill Robespierre. And then people think, well, that bastard who murdered everyone is now gone and we're safe again. No, he had been sacrificed to terror. Terror still exists. Terror is what you saw Greta Thunberg with her Committee of Public Safety at the UN trying to infuse within children all over the world by saying they had no future. Terror is what people who think that Trump was some kind of like the greatest monster that ever lived and Hillary Clinton was like a sainted being of purity and light is what they engineered in them. They want them terrorized. 2 reasons. 1, they will serve the public, which isn't them. And 2, the main objective, they will kill themselves.